Hey, second graders and anybody else who's here along for our tour of the church and some of the things that we use in church, especially at Mass, and anybody else who might see this. This section is probably the longest one, and it'll be on some of the things that we have, and obviously there are a lot of things. So just to dive right into it, the bowl or the flat plate that we use to hold the bread, which will be offered at Mass and become Jesus' body, is called a paten, P-A-T-E-N. They come in all shapes and sizes. So here's a larger one, like we would normally use for our school Masses or Sunday Masses that would hold a lot of hosts. Here is a smaller one, but would still hold quite a bit, and you'll notice the different styles and the way these look. Here's a smaller one yet, and different style that we would use especially on Sundays and for school Masses, for instance, so that an assisting minister can help distribute the body of Christ. And here's pretty much the smallest of all patens. You'll notice it's nearly just a very indented plate, very small. Of course, I have on here just a couple of hosts. Right now, these are just bread, of course. They haven't been consecrated. They're just unleavened bread. We very often have a bigger one, and then as many small ones as we might need. And you'll notice just how small this particular paten is. This is meant more for daily Mass. Father Joe and I have been using these for the live stream Masses, as we're the only ones here. So those are, once again, those are all called a paten. It's the same word, and they could come in all different shapes and styles and sizes. Chalices as well come in all shapes and sizes. In the Catholic Church, there's a big difference between a cup, a copa in Latin, and a chalice, calix. So a cup or a copa is, I have my cup, you have your cup, he has his cup. It'd be really great for a pandemic, of course, and everybody has their own cup, right? In the Catholic Church, the symbolism of the Eucharist is it's the one bread and the one chalice shared by all. So by definition, the word chalice means we're going to have one from whom everyone is going to partake, okay? So just to show you a couple of different images here, there's all sorts of different kind of chalices. These are additional chalices that we would often use for the distribution of precious blood outside of a pandemic, obviously. We even have what I like to call a baby chalice. So they could be any different size. Some are quite large and some are quite small. They might be gold-plated. They might be made of silver and have gold plating in the inside. What a lot of people don't know, and this is a little bonus for you, is these chalices are not one piece. So this happens to be my chalice. It's got my name engraved in the bottom of it from the date of my ordination. It was a chalice of a priest who was ordained in 1957 that was handed on to me. So this is continuity of this chalice has been used now for many, many years for the celebration of the Eucharist. But because it's my chalice, I'm willing to show you how exactly this comes apart. And this is something you don't see very often. Please don't do this ever. They are consecrated, but just so that you have a sense of how this works, I'm actually going to take my chalice apart. And what I usually do when I do this live is, and I can do this now, if you want to make a little quiz, how many pieces do you think a chalice turns into? You know, is it one piece? Is it two pieces? Does it become three pieces? So maybe you can even try to guess as you're watching this, and we'll see who gets closest, okay? So there's actually a bolt that runs up through the middle here, and I'm going to try very hard not to let this all fall apart at once, so I'm going to put it upside down. So let's count. Here's one piece, two pieces, three pieces, four pieces, five pieces, and the last bit here is all one piece, right? So 6 pieces that my chalice at least turns into. And a lot of people do not realize how those chalices are put together and how they come apart like that. And mostly that's so that they can be replated and can be fixed and refinished, okay? So we normally wouldn't take them apart like that, but I think it's good to know. It's kind of a fun little fact. So that's just something about chalices. Something that's very similar to a chalice, but is quite different, and here's just one example, a very ornate example, is called a ciborium, right? That starts with a C. This is what holds the body of Christ in the tabernacle. right? So when you take the lid, which is almost kind of airtight, most of them, you can kind of sense there's a bit of a suction. When you take the lid off, you could actually mistake this for just a large chalice. But the purpose of this is to hold the body of Christ in the tabernacle, and so it does have a lid that we can put on top of it, and those do come in all shapes and sizes as well. I just didn't bring as many of those out for you to look at today. One of the other things that we use to hold the Blessed Sacrament is called a pyx, P-Y-X. That's from the Greek word for the boxwood tree, excuse me. And these days, instead of being made out of wood, they're made generally out of metal. And so they're little containers that are meant to hold the body of Christ, specifically to take communion to the sick. So here's a really large one with a lid. It's almost like a ciborium, really, but this is meant for taking a large number of hosts to, say, a prison or to a nursing home or a place like that. Here's another very large one that would hold a lot of hosts. So they do come in all shapes and sizes as well. This happens to be mine. Once again, it happens to have my name engraved on the bottom of it, and it's big enough to hold several hosts. Very often, a pyx will also have what they call a burse, which is a small little kind of leather satchel that would go into to protect